we're talking about how to green your facility. Some of these tips apply to your home as well. So one of the main ways that most folks know about that's very popular is the LEED certification. This mainly applies to newer construction, but it can also apply to retrofitting an existing building, operations and maintenance, and core and shell of the building. And they assign different points for different categories. The goal of LEED is to create better buildings that reduce contribution to global climate change, enhance individual human health, protect and restore water resources, protect and enhance biodiversity and ecosystems services, promote sustainable and regenerative material cycles, and enhance community quality of life. For new building construction, you can see the rating system and the reference guide on the right-hand side of the screen. And you can see the total points you earn can be anywhere from platinum level, gold level, silver level, or certified. LEED certified buildings save money, improve efficiency, lower carbon emissions, and create a healthier workplace for people. They are a critical part of addressing climate change and meeting ESG goals, enhancing resilience, and supporting more equitable communities. So how can I go and green my building? Number one is conduct a facility audit and ask these questions you see below. Questions like, what type of light fixtures are we using? What's the condition of the windows and doors? Simple things like, do the doors have weather stripping on them? Or is the weather stripping worn out or missing? What is the condition of the HVAC system? Is it an old system that's inefficient? Are the filters changed regularly? What type of filters do you use in your HVAC system? What is the condition of the roof? What type of roof material do we have? Do we need a new roof that would be more energy efficient and help cool the building in the summertime? What type of plumbing fixtures do we have? Landscaping? What type of materials do we use as part of our process? Do we recycle anything? Can we reduce our waste output streams? What kind of equipment maintenance program do we have? And what is the lifespan of that equipment? Whether it's HVAC equipment, an air compressor, shop equipment, etc., forklift, vehicles. A successful green building program must have the full support of all levels of management. It starts at the top, and it can't just be lip service, otherwise you're not going to get buy-in from the rest of your employees. You want to create a company-wide green building program, some sort of initiative that includes input from all levels and departments of your company, and conduct regular meetings and audits to assess your green building program's progress, because what gets measured gets improved. So some specific action items you can take pretty much right away: replace light switches with occupancy sensors and install smart thermostats. So occupancy sensors, there's many different types. Some they direct replacement for your light switch. Other occupancy sensors, they mount on the ceiling, let's say like in a restroom where you have stalls. A switch on the wall isn't going to see motion inside those stalls. So the occupancy sensor would then be mounted on the ceiling inside a restroom, and it would detect motion or infrared, heat signatures from inside those stalls to keep the lights on while someone's in the stall. But when they exit the restroom, it'll turn off. Those occupancy sensors are programmable. They're adjustable. I've used them for years. They work great. You can install solar panels on your roof and or a green roof. So a green roof would be plantings, whether it be grass, small succulents, etc. That also helps greatly reduce the heating effect from the sun in the summertime. You can remove your irrigation system and install xeriscaping, which would be like decorative river rock, drought-tolerant plantings, etc., or operate your system on gray water. I'm sure you've seen the purple pipes where the city provides gray water. You can harvest rainwater for cooling tower makeup water or other processed water that needs makeup water. You can utilize a mop water scrubber cart reclamation system whereby you take your dirty mop bucket water, you reclaim it and filter it, sanitize it, and then reuse it again. I'll show you later in this presentation what that would look like. You can install WaterWise plumbing fixtures, and on the packaging it'll actually be labeled as WaterWise. So like low flow water closets, waterless urinals, motion sensor faucets, and motion sensor soap dispensers, motion sensor paper towel dispensers, or even install those blower style hand dryers instead of using paper products. And if you have like an old water heater, let's say, that needs to be replaced, you might seriously consider getting a heat pump style water heater. They're much more efficient. The way the heat pump water heaters work, they pull ambient warm air from the surrounding atmosphere in the building, and basically it almost kind of works like an air conditioner but in reverse. So then that ambient warm air, that heat gets transferred into the water to heat up the water. If you're replacing facility equipment, research more energy efficient equipment such as a variable frequency drive air compressor. Institute a recycling program if one doesn't already exist, and see how many waste streams you can convert to recycling streams. You can also get rid of paper plates, styrofoam plates, plasticware, etc., and use reusable glass, stainless steel, etc. in your lunchroom. So some custom green industrial type equipment. So let's say this would apply to a heavy equipment shop, a truck shop, a train shop, transportation industry, etc. An absorbent pad ringer. So basically, if you have a used absorbent pad that you soaked up some oil on the floor, instead of just throwing that in your 55-gallon collection drum after one use, you would ring it through this device. It would squeeze out all the used oil. You could collect that used oil, send it off to a proper environmental recycling company, and then reuse that absorbent pad again, reducing your overhead cost. An aerosol can recycling system. It sits atop a standard 55-gallon drum, open-top steel drum, and you have a puncturing device. That's the blue device you see with the handle. And then you have a exhaust filter on the 3/4 inch bung, which is a granular activated carbon filter and coalescing filter. So any residual aerosols, propellants get captured in that filter. They don't enter into the atmosphere. And again, this is for puncturing empty aerosol cans. You don't want to take a whole full aerosol can and puncture it in here. That's not what it's designed for. But by utilizing this recycling system, it meets the EPA guidelines, particularly in California. That's where I designed and built this system for a previous employer. So once you process your aerosol cans in this way, it can then be reclassified as scrap metal, and it can go in your scrap metal bin to be recycled instead of collecting it in a 55-gallon drum as a hazardous waste stream. So there again, opportunity to reduce your overhead costs. Another option, again, for heavy equipment shop, truck shop, etc., an oil filter crusher. So this one is a hydroelectric oil filter crusher. And you can see on the right-hand side, you take a full-size oil filter, you crush it down, you can see it reduces its size pretty greatly. And then all of that oil in that oil filter will get squeezed out and collected in a bucket. You would then dump that bucket in your used oil storage tank for proper recycling. And many times you can check with your vendor, but many times once you process your oil filters in this way, your vendor will allow you to throw them in your scrap metal bin because you've sufficiently squeezed out all the residual oil or diesel fuel, etc. A couple other options: rainwater harvesting. So that basically just means you collect the rainwater that comes off of your roof and divert your downspout into a large holding tank or multiple holding tanks that you can daisy chain together. You can have something as simple as a hose bib at the bottom of the tank where you connect the hose and gravity feed, your landscaping or wash company vehicles or fill up your mop buckets. Or you can install a pump, like a shallow well jet pump, controlled by a pressure switch, and then route the piping to inside your building to, again, fill your mop buckets, top off your water cooling tower, surge tank, or other clean water supply that you need. Another option is a gray water reclamation system, as I mentioned earlier. Basically, the way that system works, the gray water enters into that green surge tank and is kidney looped, or basically filtered over and over again, through a diatomaceous earth pleated cartridge style filter that is reusable. And then the gray water then passes through a UV sterilizer back into that green tank. So that's what kidney looping means. It just continually gets filtered. Then the water once it's been cleaned and sanitized, then it goes into you can see there's a pressure pump there with a bladder tank. That pump is what would pump the treated gray water to whatever you need it for. So to refill mop buckets, scrubber carts, to wash your floors, water cooling tower makeup water, etc. And there would be a final granular activated carbon polish filter just to make sure the water is nice and clean before it goes to the end user again. If you generate a lot of gray water, there's a P-trap on overflow line there at the top of the tank you can see, with an air admittance valve that goes to the sanitary sewer, so you don't have to worry about creating too much gray water and overflowing the tank. If you don't create enough gray water, there is a solenoid valve you see there, sort of above to the left of that green tank. That's a freshwater makeup valve that attaches to an air gap fitting at the top of the gray water surge tank and is controlled by a float switch. So if the water level drops too low in that tank, that solenoid valve will open and fill up that tank with fresh water just to keep the level at a safe level so you never run out of water. Here's a sort of a detailed example of a Mop Water Reclamation system I designed and built and operated for a previous employer. This greatly reduced our overhead costs on degreaser, reduced our water bill, and basically, as you can see, you would dump your dirty mop water into one of these 275-gallon BSTs. It would get kidney looped through a bag type filter housing. The water would also be tested for pH and alkalinity levels with simple test strips. And in this case, we added an oil separator chemical and a flocculant chemical to help further clarify the water inside that tank. And then the water would then go to the clean mop water BST, where it would be ready for reuse in mop buckets and scrubber carts. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe,